The afternoon in Atlanta felt like any other. The streets were alive with movement, cars crawling bumper to bumper while the sun bore down on the city, heavy and oppressive like a thick, invisible blanket of heat. Life buzzed all around, but inside Bambi's chic, high-rise condo on the edges of Buckhead, the world felt much smaller, quieter, and heavier. Bambi stood still, staring at her reflection in the large bathroom mirror. Her posture was tense, her shoulders pulled tight with exhaustion. The hollows under her eyes were dark, bruised almost. Her normally radiant complexion looked faded, washed out against the colorful silk robe she had tossed over herself earlier in the day. She had meant to change, but time had slipped away, leaving her stuck between tasks and deadlines that never seemed to end. Her bathroom counter was cluttered with beauty products, unopened mail, and her phone, which vibrated constantly with texts, reminders, and calls she no longer had the energy to answer. Her assistant had been blowing up her phone all morning, checking in about the video shoot planned for later, reminding her about calls she needed to return, and forwarding brand deals that needed her approval. Bambi barely glanced at the notifications. The truth was, she hadn't really been present in weeks. Her days blurred into nights, and her nights were filled with anxious, restless energy. Between filming scenes for the reality show, shuffling her kids to and from their packed schedules, and handling multiple business projects, she had pushed her own health and sanity to the sidelines. She couldn't remember the last time she had slept for more than a few hours. Food had become a luxury she often forgot, substituting meals with quick sips of energy drinks and the occasional protein bar. Her body had been sending her warning signs for days, a nagging ache in her back, a relentless pounding in her head that came and went like the tide. She ignored it all, brushing off the discomfort, telling herself she could rest later. But later never came. That morning, as she leaned down to grab her handbag, her body finally gave up. A sudden, sharp pain ripped through her abdomen, stealing her breath. In an instant, everything went dark. She collapsed hard on the cold wooden floor, her body crumpling awkwardly in the hallway where she lay for hours. No one knew. No one checked in. It wasn't until her assistant, frustrated that Bambi had gone completely silent and skipped the scheduled shoot, decided to drive over. When she found Bambi lying motionless, panic set in. She dialed 911 immediately. Paramedics arrived quickly, stabilizing her vitals before rushing her to the hospital. The doctor's diagnosis hit like a punch to the gut. Severe dehydration, critically low blood pressure, early signs of acute exhaustion syndrome. The doctor explained that her body had been pushed past its limits. She hadn't been eating properly. She was dangerously dehydrated, and the psychological stress she had been ignoring had started to manifest physically in ways that could no longer be brushed aside. The hospital room was sterile, cold, humming with the soft rhythm of machines that kept track of her heartbeat and oxygen levels. Bambi lay unconscious, an IV pumping fluids into her weakened body. Nurses drifted in and out, checking on her, adjusting her pillows, monitoring her stats. Word spread fast. The production team, her assistant, and fellow cast members who had been filming with her just the day before all learned what had happened. It didn't take long before the news reached Scrappy. He was in the middle of a heated discussion with his manager about his upcoming EP when his cousin called. The words came out in a frantic rush, barely making sense, but the message was clear. Bambi had been hospitalized. Scrappy froze, his phone slipping from his hand, his thoughts spinning. He didn't wait for more details. He didn't ask questions. He grabbed his keys and rushed out of the studio, his heart pounding hard in his chest. The weight of everything they had left unsaid pressed in on him. They hadn't really spoken in days. Sure, words had been exchanged, but nothing meaningful. Their conversations had turned into arguments, battles over parenting, over her career, always taking center stage, over him feeling like he wasn't being seen or heard. Now she was in a hospital bed, and none of those arguments seemed to matter anymore. When Scrappy arrived at the hospital, everything felt surreal. The harsh glow of fluorescent lights made the hallways feel colder, more clinical. The strong smell of disinfectant made his stomach turn. The waiting area was eerily quiet, as if the entire world had pressed pause. The nurse at the front desk directed him to her room, her voice sounding distant, like she was speaking underwater. Scrappy's footsteps echoed down the long corridor. His stomach twisted with dread as he got closer to her room. A chill ran through him, prickling his skin. Seeing her like that, lifeless and frail, shook him to his core. Bambi, the woman who had always carried herself with such poise, strength, and resilience, now looked like a stranger. Her vibrant spirit seemed to have drained from her body, leaving only a pale, fragile shell behind. The monitors next to her bed blinked and beeped steadily, the only sign that she was still fighting. Her chest rose and fell in slow, shallow breaths. Scrappy didn't speak. He couldn't. He stood there frozen, absorbing the sight before him, struggling to process the harsh reality that had been thrust in front of him. Guilt crashed over him like a wave. The signs had been there all along: the fatigue in her voice, the glazed-over look in her eyes, the tension that clung to her like a second skin. But he had been too wrapped up in his own world to see it, too preoccupied with his own stress to notice hers. In the hours that followed, the hospital room became a revolving door. Bambi's mother arrived first, tears streaking down her face, her hands trembling as she reached for her daughter's hand. Erica showed up soon after, carrying a small overnight bag filled with toiletries, her expression guarded, masking whatever emotions she was feeling. Producers from the show tried reaching out, eager to get a statement or even capture footage for the next episode. Scrappy shut them down hard. There would be no cameras, no press releases, no stage moments. This wasn't for public consumption. For the first time in months, none of that mattered to Scrappy. Not the fame, not the social media noise, not the gossip blogs. His only concern was Bambi. As day slipped into night, the sky outside turned from bright blue to a heavy, dusky gray. Scrappy sat in the stiff hospital chair beside her bed, his hand resting lightly over hers. He let his mind wander to the better times: the laughter, the road trips, the holidays with their children. But darker memories surfaced too. The screaming matches that left them both drained, the slammed doors, the weeks of silence after every fight. He sat there wondering when things had started falling apart. Had they both gotten so caught up in chasing success that they forgot to nurture what they had? Had they let the chaos of the outside world infect their home? Scrappy didn't have the answers, but one thing was clear: if she made it through this, things would have to change. He would change, not just as a partner, but as a father, a friend, a man. It wasn't until after midnight that Bambi stirred. It was small, at first a flicker of her eyelids, a twitch in her fingers. But it was enough to bring the nurse rushing into the room. Scrappy stood over her, his heart thudding hard in his chest. When her eyes finally opened fully, she looked around, dazed and confused. Her gaze drifted from the ceiling, to the machines, to the people in the room, until it landed on him. For a brief moment, there was only confusion in her expression. Then, slowly, recognition. Finally, something else flickered in her eyes, something neither of them could name. Her lips parted as if she wanted to speak, but her throat was too dry. No sound came out. Scrappy leaned in close, whispering something only she could hear. He took her hand gently, afraid to squeeze too hard, afraid she might slip away again. She couldn't respond, but the tears gathering in her eyes said everything. Scrappy didn't leave her side. He stayed through the night, ignoring the nurse's gentle protests that he should get some rest. He sat there, watching her breathe, silently making promises he had failed to make before. The next morning, the doctors returned with serious news. Bambi had been lucky. She had narrowly avoided a complete physical collapse. But the road to recovery wouldn't be short. She would need true, uninterrupted rest. She'd need physical therapy, emotional support, and most of all, a lifestyle change. The doctor made it clear if she didn't slow down now, the next time might be fatal. Scrappy took the message to heart. He started making calls, canceling appearances, shifting his tour schedule, and arranging for a private wellness team to help her recover at home. For once, his attention wasn't on music, on image, or on clapping back at online rumors. His focus was on Bambi, on their family, on doing things right while they still had the chance. He realized then what he had been too blind to see before: the fame, the business deals, the cameras, they all meant nothing if she wasn't there to share it with. And as the sunlight streamed through the hospital window that morning, Scrappy held her hand tighter, silently vowing to be better, to show up, to listen, to love her the way she deserved. This story about Bambi is more than just a headline. It's a serious reminder for all of us, especially those grinding in the public eye or juggling demanding careers, family life, and personal battles behind closed doors. Sometimes we get so caught up in chasing success, in proving ourselves, in holding everything together, that we forget we're human first. Our bodies, our minds, they have limits. And when we ignore those limits, the consequences can be devastating. Bambi's health scare wasn't just a wake-up call for her. It was a wake-up call for everyone around her, especially Scrappy, who realized too late that the little things he had ignored, the exhaustion in her voice, the tension in her body, were cries for help. This isn't just about reality TV drama. This is real life, with real consequences. If there's one thing we should all take from this, it's the importance of slowing down, checking in on ourselves, and checking in on the people we love. No career, no storyline, no Instagram post is worth sacrificing your health or your peace of mind. So let's learn from Bambi's story. Let's stop waiting until it's too late to show up, to apologize, to listen, to rest. Because at the end of the day, your health is your wealth, and your family is your home. Thank you for watching, fam. If you felt this message, if you've ever been in a place where you pushed yourself too hard, drop a comment below. Let's talk about it. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real stories like this one. Stay safe, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.